ancient temples built on sacred soil. American professor of geology explains how the ancient Greeks chose their religious sites. Well, we already know that not only the ancient Greeks, but the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Americans, the ancient Chinese, all used ley lines. They knew the grid around the earth, and that's where they constructed their temples. Now, even the ground under the ancient temples in Greece was quote-unquote sacred. This represents new research by Gregory Rittelek, professor of geology at the University of Oregon. He believes that the soil on which the buildings rested had a special significant association with the worship of the god to whom the temple was dedicated. And as he notes, this could explain why Homer and Plato refer in their text to sacred soil and to soil that could affect the soul. But also one more thing, this explains the way of choosing the places where the sanctuaries were founded. Let's remember that these sanctuaries had columns. Even the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem had columns around it. It had the two main big columns in the front and the columns all around. And remember that these columns bring up the earth energy. The magnetosphere has energy and then brings the magnetism through the columns. And when the people used to pass through the columns or even stand touching or stand between the columns, it somehow had a healing effect and could somehow bring a healthier effect to their body. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. So that's why most of these temples had columns. The ones in Greece that we know of, the ones in Asia Minor, in Egypt, even in Israel, because these columns were able to amplify the earth energy. And the people that would pass through the columns or stand near the columns, they had outer columns and even inner columns that would be beneficial to their health. This amplified the earth energy from these areas on ley lines. Now, the professor said the sites for the construction of the temples were chosen to honor the deity, but also the expectations of people from it, which in turn were shaped by the economic basis of religions and rituals. This is what Professor Rittelek explains. He took soil samples from 84 Greek ancient temples, dating from classical age from about 490 BC to 338 BC. And based on the analysis he made, he created a profile with the name of the soils, their characteristics, and how they could have been used over time. The direct connection of the soil with the mythology that had developed around the deity worshipped in the temple was the first and decisive observation of the scientist. Buildings dedicated to the goddess Athena and Zeus were founded on citadel lands because, as he explains, they are deities of warrior societies, and their temples were mainly on or near hills, which could be easily defended, while there is always evidence in them of previous installation. Temples dedicated to Artemis and Apollo were erected in hunting areas. Sanctuaries of Hera and Mercury were founded on clay soils, where the soils are rich and suitable for cattle breeding. The sanctuaries of Demeter and Dionysus were also found in fertile lands. As it's known, these two deities were associated with the cultivation of the land, and especially of grains and vines. Large plots of land, though, seem to have more to do with Hestia, Hephaestus, and Ares, Mars. Poseidon and Aphrodite, on the other hand, deities associated with the sea, had their sanctuaries in barren lands, but near fishing shelters. As for the lord of the underworld, Hades, and his queen, Persephone, they were worshipped in deep, dark caves. Mr. Ritterlek refers to the writings of the first Greek historians, through which it becomes clear that religious sites preceded the construction of temples for many centuries with outdoor ceremonies, which led to the construction of temples, originally wooden, which were later replaced by marble, the wealth and prestige of the cities of the classical age, as he says. The ancient Greeks, however, also used natural phenomena in order to enhance their spiritual experiences. It's known that the temple of Apollo at Delphi was founded on a crack in the ground from which hydrocarbon vapors emerged, which were able to put the oracle Pythia and the priestess of Apollo in a state of hypnosis, he recalls. And, that's when she gave her ranting prophecies about what would take place. Now, similarly, preserved ammonite fossils in the courtyard of the sanctuaries of Apollo, Artemis, Asclepius, and Epidaurus create the shape of a snake, reminding the faithful that healing would be achieved during the praise by the god transformed into a serpent. So, we have pictures of the temple of Poseidon at Sunium, the deity inextricably linked with the sea. Poseidon had his sanctuaries in barren lands, as we said, but close to fishing shelters, and also the temple of Athena in Delphi. Both sanctuaries of Athena and those of Zeus were built mainly on or near hills, so that the faithful warriors could easily defend them. This is from a Greek article I've translated for you. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support.